Hello all, welcome to Diligent Learner channel. Please subscribe this channel to know such more insights on various topics. Welcome to today's lecture on the Vedic period, a fascinating chapter in the Indian history that shaped the cultural, religious and social landscape of the Indian subcontinent. Spanned from 1500 BC to 600 BC. The Vedic period takes its name from the Vedas, the oldest sacred text of Hinduism. During this time, the Indian subcontinent witnessed the arrival of the Aryans, a nomadic pastoral people who migrated from Central Asia. With the arrival came into the introduction of Sanskrit, which was their language, and their unique religious and social practices. The Vedic period can be divided into two phases, the early Vedic period and the late Vedic period. In the early Vedic period, the Aryans gradually settled in the northwestern regions of the Indian subcontinent, bringing with them their rich oral tradition. It was during this time that the Rig Veda, the oldest of the Vedas, was composed. The later Vedic period witnessed further developments as Aryan settled, became more organized and established kingdoms, particularly in the Punjab region. Additional Vedas like Yajurved, Samved, and Atharved were composed, expanding the corpus of sacred knowledge. Society evolved with agriculture becoming more prominent and the emergence of a stratified social structure based on the varnas or social classes. The Vedic religion revolved around the ritual sacrifices, with the Brahmins, the priest class, playing a central role in performing these ceremonies. The Vedic period laid the foundation of Hinduism, serving as a precursor to the diverse religious traditions that evolved over time. By exploring the Vedic period, we gain valuable insights into the origins of the Indian civilization, the development of Hindu religious thought, and the social structures that shaped the ancient Indian society. Join me as we delve deeper into the intriguing era and uncover the cultural tapestry and intellectual heritage of the Vedic period. As we have seen in our last lecture that by 1500 BC, Harappa civilization was declined. There are multiple theories that have been proposed for the various causes. At this time, Aryans came to Indian subcontinent. Aryans were not originally from our land and migrated from the Central Europe. They started settling in the northwest valleys. As we have seen, this land has good soil and rich in resources. One of the prominent feature is that they bring or belong to agricultural society and used to keep cattle. By 6th century BC, they occupied whole North India from northwest to eastern side, which where we have Bihar and neighboring state presently. Look at this timeline and try to memorize this also. From 300 BC to 1500 BC, we have Harappa period, and then from 1500 BC to 600 BC, we have Vedic period. Now, the Vedic period is divided into two parts, early Vedic period and the later Vedic period. Early Vedic period basically considered from 1500 BC to 1000 BC, and the late Vedic period is considered from 1000 BC to 600 BC. In the early Vedic period, Aryans were settling in different parts, leading a semi-nomadic life. They have the ruler economy, society hierarchy followed tribal organization. During this period, Rig Veda was composed. In the late Vedic period, settlement of the Aryans was expanded and covered whole North India. Rural economy was much developed and some urban centers popped up. Social structures got changed. As new kingdoms emerged, political structures also got changed. Other three Vedas and some other texts like Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads were created during this period. Some evidence have been found out which shed light to the certain aspects of the Vedic period. Sanskrit was the language. Two forms of Sanskrit have been found out. Earlier was the Vedic Sanskrit, in which Rig Veda was composed. Later on, classical Sanskrit was developed. From the Ved, it came to light that Aryans used to drink a beverage called som, which was a fermented beverage and was considered sacred and divine. In the society, they used to play the game of chess, chariot racing, and recitation of poems and hymns. Since they were cattle keeping people, cow was the measure of their wealth. They also used high quality earthenware like painted greyware and northern black polished ware. It is well known that Aryans were not original inhabitants of the Indian subcontinent, and they have migrated here. There is a debate among the scholars about the origin of the Aryans, and multiple theories have been suggested. Based on these theories, possible origins can be Arctic region, Germany, Central Asia, and southern Russia. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was a scholar and a freedom fighter, predicted that Aryans came from the Arctic region based on astronomical calculations. But the widely accepted theory is of southern Russia. Now, if we look on the linguistic and archaeological evidences, it is widely believed that the Indo-Aryans originated somewhere in the Eurasian steppe region, which encompasses modern-day Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. This region is known for its vast grasslands and nomadic or semi-nomadic pastoral culture. Vedic literature helps us to understand the Vedic period, its society, religion, values, organization. Most prominent among them are the four Veds: Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, and Atharved. Ved is derived from the word Ved, which means to know. Now, word Yajur can be translated as sacrifice or worship. It is derived from the Sanskrit root Yaj, which means to worship or to offer. The Yajurved consists of prose and verse formulas that are recited during sacrificial rituals, yajnas, conducted by the priest or the Brahmins to honor and appease the various deities. The Samved is derived from the Sanskrit word Sam, which means melody or song. It is a collection of hymns and verses taken from Rigved but arranged in a musical format. The hymns of the Samved are sung or chanted in specific melodies called Samgana during religious rituals and ceremonies. Now, the term Athar is derived from the Sanskrit root Atharvan, refers to a priest or a practitioner of the Atharved. It can be translated as the knowledge of Atharvan or the wisdom of Atharvans. The Atharvaved contains a collection of hymns, spells, incantations, and prayers. Unlike the other three Vedas, which mainly focus on ritualistic and philosophical aspects, the Atharvaved deals with a broader range of subjects. It includes verses and rituals related to the healing, magic, domestic life, social custom, and general well-being. Now, each Ved consists of Brahmanas, the Upanishads, and the Aranyakas. Rigved, Samved, and Yajurved were collectively called as Traji. Atharved was later added later in the timeline. Vedangas are the limbs of the Vedas. Now, it is very important to look at the details what each Veda contains. Starting with the Rig Veda, it is a collection of 1028 hymns and it contains about 250 hymns in the praise of Lord Indra, who is described as the destroyer of cities. There are around 200 hymns in the praise of Agni. So you can see among the various deities, Indra and Agni were the prime or were more focused. Prominent gods of the Rig Veda are Indra Agni, Varun Rudra, Aditya Vayu, Aditi and Ashwini twins. Now, if we look at the Yajur Veda, Yajur means sacrifice or worship. This Veda is concerned mostly with the rites and the mantras of different sacrifices. It gives the direction for the performance of yajnas. Two branches of Yajur Veda are Shukla Veda and Krishna Yajur Veda. Now, the third one is Samved. Sam means melody or song. It consists of 16,000 ragas or ragnis or musical notes. The origin of the Indian music can be traced from this. And the last one is Atharved. Atharved is also known as Brahmved. It contains treatment of 99 diseases. Source of this Ved is traced to two rishis, namely Atharva and Angiras. There are two branches of this Ved, namely Papalada and Sonaka. Now, if we look other Vedic literature, Brahmanas are the prominent ones. Brahmanas are a category of ancient text associated with Vedic period. They are considered part of the Brahmana literature, which is a layer of Vedic texts that provide detailed explanations, interpretations, and instructions for the performance of rituals, sacrifices, and ceremonies. The Brahmanas were composed in prose and are considered a supplement to the hymns and verses found in the Samhitas, the core portions of the Vedas. While the Samhitas contain the sacred hymns and prayers, the Brahmanas offer explanation, mythological narratives, ritualistic details, and the philosophical interpretations associated with those hymns. The Brahmanas serve as a guide for the priest or the Brahmin in performing the Vedic rituals and sacrifices with precision, adhering to the correct procedures and ensuring the proper execution of various rites. They provide instructions on the construction of altars, the selection and the preparation of offerings, the recitation of the mantras, and the symbolic significance of each ritual act. They also contain discussions on cosmology, cosmogony, the nature of reality, and the philosophical ideas associated with the ritual sacrifices. They explore concepts such as relationship between the divine and the human, the role of sacrifice in the maintaining cosmic order, and the importance of maintaining the social and ritual purity. The later portion of Brahmanas were called the Aranyakas, while the final parts of the Aranyakas are philosophical books named Upanishads, which belong to the later stage of Brahmana literature. Each Ved has their own Brahmana book, like Rig Ved has Kaushitaki and Aitreya, Krishna Yajurved has Taittiriya, Shukla Yajurved has Shatpat, Atharveds have Tandav, Panchvish, and Jaiminiya. Now, Upanishads. Upanishads, the word means to sit down near. The Upanishads are a collection of ancient philosophical and mystical texts that form a significant part of Hindu scriptures. They are considered the culmination of the Vedic wisdom and are sometimes referred to as Vedanta, meaning the end of the Vedas or the essence of the Vedas. The Upanishads were composed between the 8th or the 6th and the 6th century BC and are believed to represent the philosophical insights and teachings of enlightened sage and seers of ancient India. They are considered a response to the ritualistic and sacrificial practices of the earlier Vedic period and focus more on spiritual and metaphysical inquiry. There are 200 known Upanishads. Mukti gives a list of 108 Upanishads. The earliest Upanishads are the Brihandayanka, which belongs to Shukla Yajurved, and Chand Yagya, which belongs to Samved. Now, Aranyakas are a group of ancient texts that form a part of this literature. The term Aranyakas is derived from the Sanskrit word Aranya, meaning forest, and also means belonging to forest. It can be translated as belonging to the forest or the forest. They are considered to be traditional or transitional texts between the ritual focused Brahmanas and the philosophical Upanishads. They are associated with the later stages of Vedic literature and were composed during the later Vedic period around 800 to 600 BC. They were traditionally intended for the contemplation and the study of individuals who retired to the forest for spiritual pursuits and philosophical reflections. These texts contain explanations and interpretation of rituals, sacrifices, and ceremonies found in the Brahmanas, but with a more mystical and symbolic approach. Aranyakas often explore deeper philosophical and symbolic meaning associated with the ritual and sacrifices described in the Brahmanas. They emphasize the spiritual significance of these rituals and their connection to the individual's spiritual journey, self realization, and the liberation. Apart from these, there are two epics also referring to Vedic literature, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana was written by Valmiki, or Valmiki is also known as Adi Kavi, and Ramayana is known as Adi Kavya. Mahabharata is written by Ved Vyas. The Purans, which are the mythological works which propagate religious and spiritual messages through parables and fables. There are around 18 Purans and same number of Purans. Earliest Purans, if you look at the list, were compiled in the Gupta period. That's it for this video. If you like this video, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.